Okay, so I'm going to go over your warm-up. So the first one is x squared plus 14x plus 45, right? So let me write that down. X squared plus 14x plus 45. Alright, so if you remember, your first term stays the same and goes in the top left, and so does your last term. It goes in the bottom right. Okay? And if you remember, we talked about this now new shortcut that we learned yesterday, where you can type in Desmos xy equals something and x plus y equals something. What is xy equal? It's so xy is multiplying, right? So our two factors have to multiply to equal 45, and they have to add up to equal what? 14, the middle term, right? So I want to type that into Desmos. So if you
Good morning. Announcement. Teachers left early this morning. I made your boxes for students to report to the teaching year first period. If you haven't done so, please check the box and send those students at this time. Thank you so much.
yeah, because I'm gonna go leave y'all in here and go check that right now. No. Oh, yeah. We got our teacher. Okay, so xy equals 45, x plus y equals 14, so you got to find your intersections. They're right here, and again, they're the same numbers, 5 and 9. Right, so this is 5x and 9x. So what times what gives me x squared?
X and X.
X and x, good. And then what times x gives me 5x?
X plus 5.
Plus 5. And then what times x gives me 9x? Plus 9. So my answer is x plus 5 times x plus 9. Right? Does that make sense? Remember that? Right. So I'm just going to go over one more, the last one, 4. Okay, so the last one was 4p squared minus 24p plus 20, right? So if I'm figuring out what I'm putting in Desmos, it's xy equals, and then x plus y equals. But I need to do something first. What do I have to do first? GCF, good. You got to check your GCF. I almost forgot. So remember, you type GCF, parentheses, 4, comma, 24, comma, 20. And so they're all divisible by 4.
4.
Okay, so if I'm dividing all of them by 4, okay, so 4 divided by 4 cancels out. So I'm left with p squared. And then 24 divided by 4. 6p, right? And then 20 divided by 4 is 5. So now I can figure out what I'm putting in. So this becomes p squared. This becomes 5, right? Your first and last term. So now xy has to equal 5, and x plus y has to equal negative 6. Right? Your last term and your middle term. And so if I go to Desmos, xy has to equal 5, and then x plus y equals negative 6. Find your intersections, which are right here. So it's negative 5 and negative 1. Okay. Negative 5. P. I was about to draw negative 1. P. I was about to draw next here. Okay, so what times what gives me p squared? P times p. What times p gives me negative 5p? Negative 5. What times p equals negative 1p? Negative 1. So p minus 1 times p minus 5. But that is not my answer, because I forgot. I was trying to see if anyone was going to remind me, but no one reminded me that you have to leave a 4 on the outside. Okay? and then you have to bring it down with it as well. Okay, so be careful with that. If you're dividing by something, it goes on the outside, and you got to keep it on the outside all the way through. Okay, so my real answer is 4 times p minus 1 times p minus 5. Okay, that makes sense? All right. All right. So now we are going to deal with something a little bit different. So now we have a number in front of the x squared, and we start to check our GCF, but now it might not be the GCF. Okay? So if I do 2, 5, and 3, if I do the GCF of 2, 5, and 3, 2,
It's 1.
3, it's 1. Right? So if it's 1, then I can't divide by anything. I got to leave it how it is. So now I need to know how to factor it. So these are going to be your steps. Okay? So you're going to draw your box, and again, put your first and last term. Alright? Draw your box. My first term is now 2x squared. My last term is 3. Okay? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to multiply these two numbers, 2 and 3. So now when we do the xy is now going to be 2 times 3. It's going to be the 2 and the 3. So now we have to multiply down diagonally. Okay? So xy is now equal to 2 times 3, and then x plus y is now still going to be 5. Okay? So x times y is going to be 2 times 3, and then x plus y is going to be 5. Okay? So we're going to go into Desmos and type that in. So xy equals 2 times 3, or you could have put 6, and then x plus y is equal to 5. Is equal to 5. Alright, and so we're still finding our intersection points. So my intersection points are 2 and 3, or 3 and 2. So now I'm putting 2x and 3x. Okay? Let me erase this and move it over. So xy equals 2 times 3, and x plus y equals 5. Right? Because I needed space right here. Okay, so now, what times what gives me 2x squared? 2x and x, right? Okay, but now you have to be careful, okay? Because you can't put the 2x anywhere, okay? So the way you can do it is you find the GCF of, where's that? Right here. So you would find the GCF of 2 and 3, and then 2 and 2, okay? So the GCF of 2 and 2 is 2, right? 2 and 2 is 2, and then 2 and 3 is 1, okay? So we got 2 and 2 was 2, and 2 and 3 was 1. So this is going to be the 1x, and this is going to be the 2x. Does that make sense? Y'all see what I just did? So I found the GCF of these two and these two. Whatever the GCF was here comes here. Whatever the GCF of these two comes here. And it also depends, you have to just be careful because it might be bigger than what is actually here. But it'll be alright. Okay, so does that make sense? Right? Because if I would have put the 2x up here, what times 2x would give me 3x? It would be some sort of decimal, right? It would be like 1.5. 1.5. 2 times 1.5 is 3. Right? So it would have to be a decimal. We don't want decimals. So that's why we have to put the 2x here. Because what times 2x would give me 2x? 1, right? 1 times 2x gives me 2x. What times 1x gives me 3x? 3. 1x times 3 gives me 3x. And then again, you check it. 3 times 1 gives me 3. Now, these past 2 days we weren't checking really. Now we do have to check because the numbers are kind of different on the outside. Okay? If you notice, the numbers aren't the same anymore, right? These past 2 days they were like, okay, it's the exact same number here and here, right? But not anymore. Now the numbers are different. Okay, so you have to be careful. Sometimes they are going to be the same, but they will be different. Okay? So my answer then becomes x plus 1 times 2x plus 3. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. Alright, so let's try number 2. So same thing. You got your box. Okay? So the 5m squared stays. And so does the 6. Okay? So again, we're multiplying here. So it's going to be xy equals what? 5 times 6 or 30, whatever you prefer. And then x plus y has to equal what? What does x plus y have to equal? Negative 17, right? So let's go type that in. xy equals 5 times 6 or 30. And then x plus y equals negative 17. Don't forget about the negative. Okay, so you got to find your intersection. There's one here, so it's negative 2 and negative 15. So negative 2 and negative 15. So negative 2 and negative 15. Okay? So let's find the GCFs. Okay? So GCF of 5 and negative 2. GCF of 5 and negative 2 is 1. And the other one was 5 and negative 15. So the GCF of 5 and negative 15 is 5, right? So that means the 5 and the 15, the 5 is up here. And then this was 1m, right? And then 5 times 1 does give me 5. Okay, so you have to check that too. Does that make sense? So the GCF of this goes up here. The GCF of this comes right here. Okay? So then, what times m gives me negative 2m? Negative 2. What times 5m gives me negative 15m? Negative 3, right? If you struggle, you can do negative 15 divided by 5. And that gives me negative 3. Okay? So my answer would be 5m minus 2 times 1m minus 3. Does this make sense? Try the third one. Try the third one out real quick. Okay, number 3. So I'm going to do the box, right? You start off with your box. Okay. The first term stays, so 6y squared comes up here. And then the negative 4, right? Okay, so x and y has to equal what? 6 times negative 4, don't forget the negative. And then x plus y has to equal what? Negative 5. Okay, so don't forget to multiply. Okay, so I'm going to change this right here. I already forgot it. Great. 6 and negative 4. So 6 times negative 4. And then they add up to negative 5. So if I were y'all, I would just keep these formulas here and just change numbers. Okay, and so it's 3 and negative 8, right? So my 3y and negative 8y. You could have put the negative 8 here and the 3y is still going to work out. Okay, so again, now you take your GCF. So you take the GCF of these two, and it's going to go here. You take the GCF of these two, and that's going to go here. Okay, does that make sense now? So if I do the GCF of 6 and negative 8, it's 2. So that means this right here is 2y. So then 6 and 3 is 3. The GCF is 3. So that means the 3y comes right here, where it lines up with each other. Does that make sense? It lines up. Okay, now you can do this part really easy. What times 3y gives me 3y? 1. What times 2y gives me negative 8y?
4.
Negative 4. If you need to, you can do negative 8 divided by 2. Okay? So my answer is 3y minus 4 times 2y plus 1. That's it. Okay, try the fourth one. Try example number 4. Okay, so we're doing our box again, right? So 12c squared minus 5. So xy equals what times what?
12 times negative 5.
12 times negative 5. And then x plus y equals 11. So let's go type it in our handy dandy calculator. Handy dandy, that's from Blue's Clues. Remember the handy dandy notebook? Y'all don't know nothing about that? Y'all don't know nothing about Blue's Clues.
Oh, I love that show.
Hey, I'm still recording, just letting you know. So now everybody knows the truth. Okay, shh. Equals 11, so you want to find your 8. So 15 and negative 4, right? 15 and negative 4, guys. Calm down. So 15c, negative 4c. Okay, so now let's find our GCF. So GCF of 12 and 4 is 4. So this is 4c up here. And then 12 and 15 is 3. And so we have to make sure 4 times 3 is 12. So that means this is good, right? 4 times 3 is 12. And c times c is c squared. So this is good right here. So now, what times 3c gives me 15c?
5.
Positive 5. What times 4c gives me negative 4c? Negative 1. So my answer is 4c plus 5 and 3c minus 1. Okay? Any questions?
Does it matter? Like instead of 4C, it's like 3C, like a third.
Okay. Did you put the 4c up here? If you put the 4c up here, then the 4c up. If you put the negative 4, like, this is what it would have to look like.
Yeah, it is.
Hold on. The only way that would work is that. Here, let me show you. I'm going to show you right here. Okay? The only way that you could reverse it is if you had this. So if you had 12c squared and negative 5, and you had put the negative 4c and the 15c. Okay, if you had it like this, then it would be reversed. Your 4c would be here, and your 3c would be up here, and this would be minus 1, and this would be plus 5. Okay? Right? So it would either have to look like this one or like this one. Okay? Other than that, you can't switch the 4c and the 3c. Okay? Because the GCF has to line up. The GCFs have to line up. Okay? 1512 has a GCF of 3. 12 and negative 4 has a GCF of 4. Okay? So the GCFs have to line up. So be careful with that. Okay? So that does matter. But this, like, if you did it this way, you see how the 15 was up here and the -4 was here, and I switched it to -4, we still get the same answer. The sides are still the same. Okay? It's just the order's different. Okay? Any questions? Any other questions? That was a good question. Any other questions? No? Alright, go ahead and turn to the back and you're gonna practice on those. Alright?